Hey everybody, I'm back with another video. This time it's going to be a serious subject, but I've wanted to do this for a while now, and hopefully it can help somebody out there. And the topic for today is a very controversial treatment for depression called ECT, or electro-convulsive therapy. Very, very controversial. And even at the time, I was against it. I remember writing a paper against ECT. However, going back to 2010, I was very, very chronically, severely, profoundly depressed. And I think the doctors were kind of at the stage where there was just nothing else they could do. They tried every alternative treatment and every combination of medications that they could think of, and therapy and all kinds of things, and nothing helped. In fact, it seemed to be getting worse. I agreed to this treatment even though I didn't want to, but there was nothing else. There was nothing else to do. And so I went into a smaller hospital, small rural hospital, where they did this treatment. And typically what they do is they do a series of treatments over weeks. So this particular doctor would give the treatment every other day for usually 3 weeks. And what electroconvulsive therapy is basically introducing an electrical current into the brain, which causes a seizure, usually for about a minute or so. There's a lot of side effects, and also the relapse rates are something like 85% over, I think, for a year, after a year or something, very high. And people will go in and get it done again, and many times they begin to suffer memory problems. So I was really scared, and I remember the first treatment I had, it's a very medical looking room with all the equipment to resuscitate somebody, and there's a lot of people around. They're putting electrodes on your forehead, and they also, what they do is they have to give you something like a paralytic, which paralyzes the body first, and before that they can deliver the shock. I mean, they do put you under, of course, but that has to be done as well, and so you can't really breathe during that time, so they would force oxygen. They put oxygen over your face, and I just remember feeling like I couldn't breathe, and even the doctor was like, "Don't push it into her face like that." Like, she could see that I was scared, really scared. And of course, it's done in a matter of a minute or two. You're out, and you're awake very fast. I felt awful when I woke up. I felt like somebody hit me in the head with a brick. It was comforting to have the doctor there. First thing she said is, "Do you know who I am?" Which is kind of scary, because I wonder if anybody is that confused where they don't. But I knew everything that had happened, where I was, and I was just nauseous, and I was in pain. So the first week was kind of like that. I would have a treatment one day, rest day the next, and kind of just recover. And by the second week, it was weird. It was kind of like I was getting used to it. Mostly, the seizures I had were very mild and 30-some seconds long, and I didn't really notice any changes that first week. The second week, after one particular treatment, I had a really hard day. I would walk around and I wasn't really sure where I was, kind of like where my room was. And I remember thinking about my mother, and it's like, has she passed away, or is she still alive? And if she is, where is she? Or I tried to think, okay, so when would that have happened? And was there if she passed away, was there a service, like it was terrible. So that night went back to my room in the evening, and the doctor would come around at the end of the day and to see how I was doing. And she said, "How are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm really confused today. Really don't know quite what happened." So she said, "I'm not surprised." So she showed me the graph of the seizure, which, like I said, was normally, 32, 34, 37 seconds. All of them the week prior had been that sort of length and severity you could see on the chart when the seizure would peak. Second week, that one particular one, she showed me the chart and it went way up and was 94 seconds long. And I think, looking back, I think it was that particular seizure or treatment that really changed things. Because after that, I started to notice things like I would be sitting there, and it's not like I was happy, but I didn't feel that overwhelming sense of dread and that anxiety. And things didn't look so bad, like the future. I met another patient there who was undergoing some treatments as well, and we became friends. We were allowed to go for walks and stuff, and I remember really kind of enjoying that time, where I could sort of start to feel things again. I was there for 3 weeks, and when I got back home, I was really, I don't know if you'd say worn out or drained. I couldn't function. I couldn't do anything. I just had to lay around for a long time. I really did start to notice things, though. I went to go to the grocery store one time. It was March, and snow was starting to melt, and there was a song that came on. And I remember feeling these like butterflies, and I was like, what is this? What is this? And then I realized I am feeling and responding to the music. And I just cried because I hadn't felt music in a long, long time. And I sat there and I listened to that song. And then I got out to go walk to the store. And everything just seemed so bright, like the sound even of my feet on the slushy snow made a sound, and the feeling of the wind on my face just felt so good in the air, and I hadn't felt anything. It was almost sensory overload. So the recovery period after that was strange. I realized probably the first night home that I had lost some memory. And I was cold. I remember I was cold. And my daughter said, "Oh, why don't you put on your new house coat?" And I'm like, "New house coat?" She goes, "Yeah, the one we got you for Christmas." And I was like, "Wow, what are you talking about?" She goes, the red house coat. And I was like, "What?" And she went and got it for me. And I was like, "Oh, this is beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much. This is great." And they were kind of like, "Oh my God, like, what's going on here?" And then they just started to bring out all my presents from Christmas. And it was literally like Christmas all over again because I didn't remember any of it. And there were people that I had met recently that I didn't remember. Anything, I think it seemed to be a period of time. Like it seemed to be anything within that 8 months, close to a year. Anything new from that time was gone. And that was really hard to deal with. But I was starting to come back to the world. And that was the beginning of that. In that week, there was one other event that happened that made me realize, I think biologically something had changed in me. And that was really a starting point. But it wasn't everything. It was like the depression had kind of physically left, but it did some damage. It was like the way that people with depression think about the world and about other people and about themselves, it left that with me. The physical part seemed to leave, but it had done a lot of damage. And I realized it at one moment, and it was really a lot like, if you don't do something to fix this, you will slide right back into that old way, and you will be back to where you were. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about the thing that happened that made me realize I had a lot of work left to do. So, for anybody who's suffered from depression, I can relate, and anybody who is contemplating having this procedure done, we'd be happy to talk to you about it privately. So don't hesitate to message me. Thank you for listening.